Gentlelady from Washington seek recognition.
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike the last word.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the last 6 years, we've watched as the former president repeatedly violated democratic norms. As president, Donald Trump put his personal and private interests first over the interests of the American people. He lied to Americans an estimated 30,573 times during his presidency. Out of office, he's continued to lie about the results of the 2020 election, incited an insurrection, endangering our democracy simply so that he could stay in power. And now we've learned that Donald Trump, in another show of disdain for democratic norms, has been keeping classified and top secret documents that he was required to return at the end of his presidency. It is laughable that my colleagues across the aisle suggest that if a president wants to declassify documents, he can just, say so when that document is found in his home at Mar-a-Lago. It's ridiculous. In the aftermath, Trump spread misinformation on the FBI's investigation, claiming that the documents were his. Several House members boosted Trump's words, called the investigation a, quote, witch hunt, and created public pressure to, quote, defund the FBI. It's important that people who are watching this understand the connections between Donald Trump and his rhetoric, the big lie, the January 6th insurrection, and what's happening now following the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago. Even also, in addition to that, the threats of political violence, racist and xenophobic rhetoric that continues to permeate our landscape. All of this is designed to undermine the faith in our institutions. And my colleagues are right. There is an undermining of the faith in our institutions, and it is perpetuated by many of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Things like a free and fair election or the peaceful transfer of power. All of that has been undermined. Now, following the search at Mar-a-Lago, the FBI and its agents have become targets. For example, an armed man named Ricky Schiffer, who was also at the Capitol on January 6th at the insurrection, attempted to break into the FBI building in Cincinnati, Ohio, and called for people to prepare themselves for, quote, combat after news broke of the search. In addition, federal magistrate judge who found that the FBI had probable cause and approved the search has received violent threats. Users posted anti-Semitic slurs on right-wing social media platforms and message boards and released the judge's name, address, and personal information to further his harassment. It is an uptick in violence that is fueled by the incendiary language spouted by Donald Trump and his loyal supporters. It is not normal. It should not be considered as normal. It is what led to January 6th and has the potential to continue to dismantle our democracy. Now, the fact that people are doubting our institutions is aided, perpetuated by a Republican Party that has decided that their best shot of winning is to actively undermine those very institutions, including the Department of Justice, the FBI, our elections. That is exactly, again, what led to January 6th. Institutions are not good when they agree with you and bad when they don't agree with you. An election is not fair if you win, but unfair if you lose. You don't get to say you support law enforcement when it goes after your opponents, but the minute that it goes after your own president, your former president, who took classified documents with nuclear secrets to his home in Mar-a-Lago, all of a sudden the FBI doesn't become a terrible agency for doing its job. You can't decide all of a sudden that these institutions are bad just because you don't agree with them. And let's be clear, the government is not immune from criticism, but there is a big difference between using your free speech rights or protesting peacefully or asking for oversight and taking this to a violent rhetoric that undermines the core of our democracy. That is the disturbing reality that has become mainstream in the last couple of years. It's extremely dangerous to peddle information to the public that makes government agents, federal agents, and judges a target of harassment and violence We have to be honest about what's at stake and condemn those who continue to endorse the big lie, continue to talk about the FBI in the terms that we have seen, and continue to endorse this kind of rhetoric. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back and I oppose this resolution.
Gentlelady yields back for our purposes. The gentleman from Texas seek recognition.
Strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Listen, I've been here long enough.